Hello, 7th grade. This is Mr. Frazier. Today is Tuesday, March 31st, sorry, and this is our science lecture. Just a couple of housekeeping things. Last week we finished our chapter on birds. We have a test this Friday. I sent you a study guide. You'll be taking this test at home, so you'll have whatever time you need, and resources. Obviously, don't look up every answer, but I thought you should have a study guide. Normally, I would have given you more time to prepare, but next week is spring break, and obviously, with so much stress going on, we need a week to unwind, and so I didn't want you to be thinking about perching birds or flightless birds. So we're going to do it this Friday. Your parents were emailed the study guide. If you didn't get it, or if you are having problems accessing it, please contact me. I got everybody's test. I will grade it and send it back to you. I haven't sent every assignment back just yet because there's a lot going on, obviously, but I'm keeping your grades up to date. If you'd like to know what your particular grades are, you can contact me and I'll show you the iGrade Plus page. I just felt like everybody's getting emails for every single thing. If you're getting emails with graded papers on top of that, that seems to me to be a bit much. But let me know if you disagree. Along that line, I've been keeping the homework assignments light. So we have one science assignment and one history assignment this week, so that you can study and prepare and do your math and everything for Miss Alanis. Anyways, thinking about you guys and trying to craft the best way to do this while continuing to educate you, but without killing you and your parents off with all the stress. So that is all of that. We're going to continue talking about the Civil War tomorrow, and I'm going to send out links to some documentaries I'd like you to watch, maybe on YouTube, because your book gives the whole Civil War like 3 pages. That's just ridiculous. That's not enough. Spend half a chapter talking about spirituals and Lot Carey and the American missions and give 3 pages to the entire American Civil War. That's just insane. So I'd like you to have a fuller knowledge. Civil War is extremely important. Anyways, we'll talk more about that in history. Today, in science, we are going to talk about the beginnings of Chapter 8. Chapter 8 is on fish, amphibians, and reptiles, and let's get it going. So, bam. Fish, amphibians, and reptiles. All of these animals are cold-blooded. Now, that doesn't mean that their blood's actually cold. That means that unlike birds and mammals, they cannot regulate their body temperature. So, when we are cold, we can put on a jacket and our body will heat itself up. If you're running the mile with Miss Alanis and you get hot, we start sweating and we cool ourselves down. So we don't have like hot blood. We kind of do. It's 98 degrees. But these animals, fish, amphibians, and reptiles, their blood temperature changes with their surroundings, with their environment. So if it is cold outside, that means their blood temperature drops. And so they have to act accordingly. So you'll often see lizards in the morning, like out on a rock where it's sunny, because they're warming themselves up so that they can move. So cold-blooded animals cannot live in Antarctica like penguins. Penguins are warm-blooded, so they can huddle together and keep themselves warm in freezing temperatures. If you take a lizard and put it in Antarctica, it will freeze and you'll have a lizard popsicle. So all of these animals are cold-blooded. Try to remember that. Today we're going to talk about fish. Fish are aquatic vertebrates with gills, fins, and scales. So remember, when we talk about mammals, when we're talking about birds, we're talking about their attributes or their characteristics for classification. So birds, in order to be a bird, you have to have feathers, you have to have wings, you have to be bipedal, right? Fish must have gills, right? They live in the water. They must have fins, that's how they move, and they must have scales. If they don't, then they are not fish. So a sea starfish, it's called a fish, but it's not. It doesn't have fins. It's not a backbone. It doesn't have a backbone, so it is not a fish. There are two types of fish: bony fish and cartilaginous fish. We're going to talk about cartilaginous fish later. Sharks and rays are cartilaginous fish, and what that means is that a shark is made out of the same stuff that your nose and ears are, which is why if you've talked about like the what's that movie, the Meg or whatever, with the megalodon, they do not have skeletons of ancient sharks because their bones cannot be fossilized because they don't have bones. They just have cartilage. So the only thing that you can dig up of a shark are its teeth, because everything else is just cartilage and very, very soft, which is why sharks are the way they are. The majority of fish are bony fish. When you think of a fish, you're thinking of a bony fish. That is a sunfish, and it is one of the biggest bony fish in all of the world. So, bony fish. What about them? Bony fish are the majority of fish, and because they move through the water, they have glands in their skin that secrete a protective layer of mucus. Fish are kind of slimy, and that is because it makes them hydrodynamic. When we were talking about birds, birds need to be aerodynamic. Their feathers shape how air moves, and the contour feathers make them aerodynamic, meaning they can move through the air very quickly. Fish need to be hydrodynamic, or being able to move through the water very quickly. So, from the way that their scales are placed to the mucus that they secrete helps them move through the water much more quickly, which obviously is beneficial because if you're a fish, you're either trying to swim fast to catch something and eat it, or you're trying to swim fast to avoid being caught and eaten. So they have those glands in their skin. All fish have fins. The fins, you probably already know, are the things that help them move through the water. There are two types of fins in a fish: ray-finned fish and lobe-finned fish. The picture at the bottom is a ray-finned fish, and ray-finned fish have fins that look like those spines with a membrane, like a thin sheet of skin, for lack of a better word, between the spines. So you can see that they are shaped kind of like rays sticking out. A lobed finned fish, think of an earlobe. The reason it's called that is because it's that shape. So certain fish have kind of a curved fin that do not have those spines, and those would be lobe-finned fish. All right, scales. You're going to need to look all this stuff up in your book. Sorry, just like as usual, these are the first 5 pages of chapter 8. I believe it's 271 to 276, but I'm not sure about that. There are different types of scales. Now, a fish's scales, these ones are pretty, are important. They're not just for protection like armor. They are overlapping bony plates that stick out of their skin. Now, they can provide a little protection, but mostly, once again, they're for being hydrodynamic, meaning being able to move through the water. So, scales are all placed in the same direction that helps water flow over the fish more easily than if you're just swimming with skin like we do. Even sharks have a type of scale, they're called denticles, but the fins help the water to move and help the fish move more quickly in the water because you got to be fast in the ocean. There are 4 different types of fish scales. I named 3 of them. They're all in your book. They are placoid, ganoid, cycloid, and synoid. I didn't have enough space. I don't know why I did that. But they classify the scales based on their shape. So the scales you see on this fish at the bottom of your screen, those are placoid scales. And those are the type of scales when we think of fish scales. This is the type, placoid. All right, next section. Internal structure. What does the fish anatomy look like? If you have ever eaten fish, you will know some of this already. There's a picture of a clownfish. The myomere, this will be on your test, are W-shaped bands of muscle. Because of the way that a fish is shaped, their muscles need to contour to their body shape. When I was younger, the Redeemer went on a fishing trip one time, and we went fishing and we caught some of the fish. And then after we caught the fish, you had to eat the fish, and you had to cut out and take off the head. And it was kind of hardcore for some of the kids, but I used it as a way to show the myomere, because when you pull off the fish, you can see the individual W-shaped bands of muscle that is what people eat, and that is the myomere. All right, fish respiratory system. Fish breathe oxygen just like we do. We have lungs that are designed to filter out oxygen from the air in the O2 form. Fish have gills that filter out oxygen from the water. Water is H2O, right? 2 hydrogen and 1 oxygen molecule. And so the fish use the gills to breathe oxygen. They just do it in a different way. The gills are the actual organs. If you look at the side of the fish and you see kind of those slits, those are called gill slits. Those are not the gills. The gills are the entire structure, like our lungs. And the gills are filled with gill filaments, which are these tiny bands of blood vessels that absorb the oxygen. So if you can remember back to our discussion on lungs, when you breathe in the air, the oxygen goes into the little air sacs alveoli, which are lined with blood vessels, and that filters out the oxygen into our blood that actually makes us live. These gill filaments, as the water passes through the gills, they absorb the oxygen from the water and into the bloodstream. The operculum is the hard, movable plate that protects the gills. You will need to know that for your test. Obviously, the fish do not want to get hurt in their gills, so they have a plate that protects it. You can think of it kind of like our breastbone, our rib cage, is designed to protect all of the most vital organs. You don't want to just be able to be punched in your heart and lungs, so you have a rib cage that protects it. They have the operculum that protects the gills and moves them. Bam! The circulatory system. Circulatory means blood. Fish are different than humans and birds. Humans and birds have 4-chambered hearts. Fish have 2-chambered hearts. Animals that are warm-blooded have to pump the blood in a different way because it requires a lot more energy, and so warm-blooded animals have 4-chambered hearts. The fish have a 2-chambered heart. You can see it kind of there at the bottom, although this is just a drawing, and it has 1 atrium and 1 ventricle, but it does the same purpose. The purpose of the heart is to pump blood through the body. So you can see the gills, the gill filaments there. The oxygen comes through the gills, and it immediately goes into the heart where it's pumped into every part of the fish's body. Then the carbon dioxide is filtered out and goes out through the gills. So very similar to the way humans breathe. Fish are breathing in the oxygen, and the blood is circulating the oxygen in, and the carbon dioxide out. Um, anyways, that is the end of our lecture today. We're going to continue talking about fish later. Um, we're not going to go too far ahead because we got that test on birds on Friday, so I might post a short lecture on Thursday, just reminding everybody of what's going on and explaining the how the test is going to go if you don't already know, and keep in touch. Remember, if you are not seeing the assignments, if you are having trouble, contact me. I got a pretty small class, so I can email everybody if I need to. I want to make sure that everybody's keeping up. Anyways, like always, I miss you guys. I can't wait till we're back in class talking about Fortnite and Roblox and basketball and science and history. I hope you guys are doing well. Wash your hands, stay safe. Praying for you, and I will see you soon. Goodbye.